What is an internal factor evaluation matrix and an external factor evaluation matrix? Well, these are two distinct tools that operate in the same manner. Basically, each is an analytical technique that you use to evaluate the strategic position of the firm with regard to internal factors or external factors that give rise to a strength or weakness of the firm. So is the firm strong or weak in the context or with regard to this internal or external factor and how that factor affects the company? So generally you're going to use this tool to evaluate internal factors separately from external factors, so you're not going to mix them together. So in that way they're really two separate matrices, but they're carried out the same way. They're very similar to a SWOT analysis where you're looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The major difference is you're using an analytical approach. That is, you're giving numbers, or you're weighting the strength of a factor or its effect on you or its importance to you. And then you are identifying whether you are strong or weak in that regard. So by using these importance weightings and then you're rating yourself on a number scale, it gives some quantitative results concerning your strategic position. So you can look at a number and say, okay, we are strong with regard to internal factors, or we are weak with regard to external factors, depending on whatever analysis you're doing. Okay, so basically each factor is weighted, right, based upon importance, and then you score yourself based upon that weighted factor. You multiply the two, that gives you a score. You sum up all of the scores, and that gives you your internal factor rating and then your external factor rating for your external factors. And you use this again. So let's take a look at each piece of the puzzle. First, create a table of either internal factors that are relevant to you or important to you in the firm, or external factors that are important for your success in the marketplace. Okay, all of these need to be related to your competitive strategic position, something that goes to your core competency or gives you some advantage in the marketplace. Okay, next you're going to assign them a weighting. The weighting needs to be between 0 and 1, so 0.15, 0.30. 0.30 is going to be twice as important for success of the firm strategically than the one you rated at 0.15. Okay, so they need to be relative to each other. Now all of these factors together need to add up to 1, okay, or 100%. Now after you've given weight to the important strategic factors, then you are going to rate yourself, rate the company on those factors. If you identify a factor that has an importance of 0.15 and you say that is a major strength of the company, okay, you would give yourself a 4 and you'd multiply it by 0.15 to get your score for that factor rating. If it's a minor strength, that is, you're not that strong in that area, you would give yourself a 3 and do the multiplication. If it's a weakness, you would give yourself, if it's a minor weakness, a 2, if it's a major weakness, a 1. And once again, the low scores for weaknesses and the high scores for strength tend to offset each other in terms of the output. So it's reflected equally in the score. So with that being said, once you've multiplied these weightings by your rating, it gives you a weighted ratio. You sum all of these up, and then you have a summarized weighted ratios, right, for your strategic position. So it takes all of the factors and puts them together in one score that you can use to evaluate your strategic position. You could use this to compare yourself to other companies if you were able to evaluate the other company on those same factors. But it can also be used for internal comparison. That is, you can evaluate how strong you were with regard to these factors at one point in time and then another point in time. So once again, it's a useful tool to understand your strategic position, and it can help you in developing strategy for the organization or understanding the effectiveness of your existing strategy. So these are the internal factor evaluation matrices and the external factor evaluation matrices.